Welcome back to the Joseph Graham Show. Today I have Tommy D. Now, we were joking before the show about how saying his last name is hard. I'll let him say it so I don't butcher it. But I met you at my buddy Sean Finnegan's X room, I want to say about a month ago, and we were just chatting. I'm like, I needed to have you on. So, for people that don't know you and know what you do, who are you? Who do you help and what do you do?
Appreciate it, Joe. Yeah, Sean's event was exceptional. It was the first one we went to, and we plan to be at many more. Actually, my partner is going to be the MC at the one we host here in Scottsdale again. But my name's Tommy D, or I go by Tommy D, but my government name is Dobzik, and so. People that I like to help. I was actually joking about this earlier today. One of my favorite hobbies is making money, and what I like to do recreationally is make money. And so, in my free time while I'm making money, I like to talk about how to make money. So, people, I should probably move my glasses. People joke about my hat because again, they're like, "Oh, a capitalist." And it's almost like a bad name now to be somebody who enjoys money. But the reason why I enjoy money is because I understand the power that it contains and what it can provide, right? And so my goal is to, and I think you had mentioned before we started it, you said, what are some topics you don't want to discuss? One of them was politics. And so when I say this, I'm not being political, but I want to make sure that there's all the money that I make go to help people instead of pay taxes.
Mhm.
And so what I like to do is I like to help people make money, but how I like to make money is by keeping it out of the government's hands and in in the places it needs to go. So I mentioned my partner Catherine. I'm helping her currently with her nonprofit, raising $55 million to help 120,000 children find homes before their 18th birthday and getting them out of the foster care system. There's a lot of programs out there for people who are coming out of foster care and need transition or need to understand whatever. But the those people, those young adults, then they don't get the experience of what a family's like, and so we like to help families. And so part of some of the things that I do is help families discover generational wealth, and we teach financial literacy. A lot of the things that I like to do outside of my day-to-day job of making money is I like to have fun making money.
No, I love that. Well, and you know what? You're on the right show. So to give you an idea of my audience, 75% is male. Most of them are either like sales professionals, because I'm a sales expert, been doing sales for years, won a bunch of awards, or entrepreneurs. We all like to make money here. If you aren't a capitalist, you're probably not going to be on my show because again, in this day and age, I am a libertarian in this regard. I want to give the government as little bit of money as possible. And then I love your second thing. So we're going to start with the second part and then come back to the first. So you're working with this nonprofit to help foster kids get homes, experience a life, and get financial literacy. How did you even get into doing that? I know you have to have money to do that first, but is there a certain reason why you picked that? There's a bunch of different nonprofits you could work with. And I love the one you picked, but I was just wondering why that one jumped out at you.
Well, and again, like I said, it's actually my partner's nonprofit, and I'm a numbers person. I like to listen to the numbers and let the numbers tell me what to do, right? And so understanding, for example, that in the homeless population, over 70% of the homeless population come from the foster care world, right? These are children that were never adopted. Okay. And so I also understand that from that, over half of the incarcerated, sex trafficked, and drug addicted people that are homeless, over half of them come from the foster care system. So, like a significant plight on our community and on society in and of itself are those three things: sex trafficking, drug addiction, and incarceration, right? And so, out of those three things right there, if we can eliminate that from within the within society by getting these people adopted prior to,
Mhm.
right, and getting them homes prior to their 18th birthday, they get to experience something that neurologically almost all of us that have a family already, take for granted, right? And so where that determination for me came from was the fact that I had a family and I grew up with a family. And some of the misfortunes from being in my family financially, like
Hmm.
I'm the black sheep of my family. No one in my family has ever been a capitalist. No one in my family's ever been an entrepreneur. No one in my family's ever been to college. No one in my family's ever earned $1 million. And so all those things, I know that I want to make a difference in people's lives because I was taught in my family that doesn't exist, right?
Hmm.
And so now that I know it can exist, I want to give that to other people and other families. And I know that the best way to do that is through giving, through legacy giving, through impact giving. And the only way to do that is through impact wealth,
Hmm.
right? And so impact wealth is really where it comes from, why I like to play with money the way I do. If you've ever played the game Monopoly, it's fun,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And it's a truly a capitalist game, and you play the game. And part of the thing about the game is that you can make it go for a long time if you're charitable and giving to the people you're playing with, right? And so for capitalists to continue to make money the way they make it, and for the game to last a long time, they have to give it away,
Mm.
right? If you want to end a Monopoly game, don't make partners with people in that game. Don't give away to charity in that game. Just take, 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 and don't give, give, give. That game's over in 30 minutes.
Hmm.
So when
I
I learned that in life, when I got into business, and I've had my downfall, I lost over $20 million in 2008. And so
hmm.
to come back from that, I learned the reason why it didn't stick around was I didn't have any friends to go and spread it around with. It
Hmm.
was all in my own stuff, right? And so any of the friends that I had that were diversified with other friends, they didn't suffer the demise of the 2008 recession. So
Yeah. No, I loved what you said there because a lot of times people think capitalists and they think greedy and taking and all, which is really not true. Capitalists have given us everything from what we're on right now with the videos to cell phones to cameras to cars to the internet, you name it. How do you help people? Because you said you like to make money, you like to help people make money. So you also said this, you're the first person in your family to make $1 million. So my first question is going to be simple. How did you make your first $1 million?
roofing industry back in 2000 and what was that 2001 2002. I had gone to Florida as a young man and started a roofing company down there, and I I was fixing roofs that were left over from Hurricane Andrew, and so really got into really got deep into the trades at a young age, and having a roofing company. And so at the age of 27 years old, I was able to acquire a roofing company. I had 17 employees, and we hit our first million on the back of a tropical no-name storm. Didn't even get a name. It just showed up and beat up a bunch of houses. And we were so prepared, and our system was so dialed in that we did $1 million of gross revenue in 62 days.
Wow.
So,
Nice.
and the rest of the year was cake. And then um, 2001, specific date in particular, I was in a position um, that kind of set me up for the success, was that I was able to capitalize on the downfall of the oil industry right after 9/11. And so when 9/11 hit, I was sitting on truckloads in a warehouse of material. I went and bought a warehouse of material right before 9/11, and there was a 1,250% increase in prices of material
Mm.
right after 9/11. And so with the warehouse full of material and roofing material, I put three roofing companies out of business. They came and worked for me. I bought their contracts and we did the roofs. And that system then just turned into 84 employees. And by 2005, we were a $25 million per year company.
Hmm.
So um, that was where life was really good for me. But I had nothing else. I remember that it was like 2003 or 2004. My partner at the time that in the roofing company, he was a general contractor and he had a roofing company, a stucco company masonry company, a civil engineering groundwork company, the roofing company. He was a partner with all these different companies, and he was like 50% in most of them.
Hmm.
And so he was a home builder, and he survived. But he came to me one time. We had gone out and done a bunch of partying or something, and we partied pretty big back then. Um, and he just come up with crazy ideas all the time. And he looked at me and goes, "Give me $1 million." And I said, "Why?" He goes, "Because we're going to open a bank. I need $1 million, and we're going to get 10 people to put together $1 million,
Hmm.
$10 million bank." And I'm like, "That's dumb. I ain't doing that." And he's like, "No, trust me. Give me $1 million." I said, "No, go find somebody else. I got better things I can spend $1 million on." Um, it was 2009, and I was driving past that bank that they bought. It had three branches, and I was driving past it, and they were changing the sign on the building
Hmm.
from the it was called the West Pasco, the First National Bank of West Pasco, and they were changing the sign on it over to Wachovia. And so from 2003 to 2009, 6 years,
Hmm.
they expanded to three branches, and they sold each branch for $1 million, $100 million. They were $300 million acquisition by Wachovia on a $1 million buy-in.
Wow. And
So
and here's the thing. You're still successful, but I bet you're like that opportunity that you passed, which logically at the time made sense for you to pass, probably made you deep dive into other opportunities when they came up next.
yeah. So anytime somebody offered me to buy into a bank from that point forward, I did it.
Hmm.
And so that's what I teach people is that we teach people how to be the bank on their real estate deals. Like if you own your own house and it's in your own name, then you're paying the bank.
Hmm.
So I encourage people to go out and get an IUL and have an IUL become the bank to their home. And then what they do is they set their home up in a trust. And what they do is they actually let their IUL be the owner of the house that then pays them a mortgage, right? And
Hmm.
so it's almost like getting lunch money from your mom and going and being able to go to school and raise more lunch money so you can actually go home and buy a steak dinner before you get home,
Nice.
right?
Explain to people because a lot of people might not know the term. What is an IUL?
It's a index universal life insurance policy, and basically what it is that it's a life insurance policy that has a cash value to it, and you can borrow against it. When you borrow against it to invest, what you're doing is you got to pay 6 or 8% interest on the loan you're borrowing against, but you're going to invest it into stuff that's making 12 to 20%.
Hmm.
So it's basically paying for the debt while making you money on an investment at the same time, better than what you'd get at the bank,
Hmm.
right? And so the example I like to give people is um, if you have um, if you have a $500,000 equity in your home, you can leverage that as say for example what's called um, um, a uh, uh, HELOC, home equity line of credit. I was
Hmm.
trying to remember I knew the mnemonic, but I'm trying to remember all the words that go in it because I don't want to
Yep. Yep.
confuse people. But a HELOC allows people to pull the equity out of their home, and typically they'll take that out at about 10% and they'll try to invest that.
Hmm.
If you put that into an IUL, with an IUL, what ends up happening is that you can put $500,000 into an IUL, and after 6 months, pull out $400,000, basically, payment with no payments.
Oh, wow. Like no
And
tax
so,
payments or
as
no.
well, you can't pay taxes on a loan,
Right.
right? And because it's a loan on your own personal life insurance policy, you're able to then take that money out and move it over into an investment that, again, like I said, makes you that money back so that you can pay off your HELOC,
Hmm.
right?
No,
And
that's
and
brilliant.
and so we teach strategies around doing things like that and getting people to understand where they can pull uh, money from. That right there is a simplified way of putting it. There's other things called like cross collateralization, and I teach people about that. If you have if you have 500 in equity in your house and you don't want a payment at all, what you do is you give somebody access to a second mortgage on your home, and they provide you with a loan based on that $500,000 to go out and reinvest it and do what you want. And basically, that $500,000 loan stays there till you pay it off, no payments, because it's called cross collateralization,
Hmm.
right? And so as you make the money off your investment, you go pay that loan back. That's kind of the position you want to get to. Um, a lot of people listen to Dave Ramsey, and I like that Dave Ramsey helps people understand how to get out of debt. But what he
Hmm.
doesn't teach people is how to get into good debt, how to
Right.
use good debt. But debt is really technically only like one of five branches of capital, because we can't do real estate without capital. That's the most people like capitalist, and like you said, they see it and they think bad terms. What they're failing to read is the IST right there, right? That
Hmm.
means I'm a studier. I'm a scientist, right? Scientists study science. So a capitalist is somebody who studies capital.
Hmm.
And so I teach people there's five ways to capital. There's cash. That's the easiest one. Everybody understands that. But there's credit, and that's the one we just mentioned about Dave Ramsey. But then there's the other ones that are collateral, which I talked about. And then the other two, which most people don't understand, are the contracts and then the contacts. And so, contracts and contacts are typically not mentioned in cut capital or capital raising, but you can't raise capital, other people's money, OPM. You can't get OPM without contacts, right?
Hmm.
And then contracts come from, like, I'm a general contractor. I do about $5.5 million a year in gross revenue from a general contractor company. I can borrow up to $1 million of that through the SBA.
Hmm.
So, and it's not dependent on my credit, it's dependent on my contracts. So these are the things that we teach
Ah,
people.
got you. So what, and I always put it in layman's terms in case people missed it. Because your company is worth 5 million, you can do up to a certain percentage. You said 1 million because you have the contract set up
Yep.
with the what you're billing, what you're doing, what you're making from that business.
Exactly,
Got it.
exactly. So these are the ways that you can get into capital, because
Hmm.
without capital, you can't invest. So
Right.
that's what we really teach people, because they don't teach it in school.
No.
I mean, unless you count dealing, selling weed in high school, education about economics, like that's how I break it down for people sometimes. I have to break it down in the terms that we might understand.
Hmm.
And in the blue collar world, my nickname on social media is blue collar $1 million, right? And it's because what I figured out in 2008, and I'm gonna like kind of do a flip rewind real quick. When 2008 hit, I went bankrupt.
Hmm.
$20 million bankrupt. And so I wasn't positioned very well. That's why I said in 2009, I was actually on my way to school becoming a paramedic when I drove past the bank and seen the sign change on the bank. And I called my ex-partner and I said, "Hey, what the hell's going on with the bank?" He said, "We sold it." And so
Hmm.
yeah, when I went past the bank going to nursing school to
Yep.
learn how to become a nurse, I spent basically from 2012 to 2020 delivering babies, wiping ass, and doing chest compressions. Ooh, I mean,
Oh, you can swear on here. It's totally
yeah,
fine.
okay.
You're good.
Delivering babies and wiping ass all over the country. I worked for 38 different hospitals, and I was a certified pediatric ER nurse that
Mm.
traveled the country for better part of a decade. So I loved what I did, but when COVID hit, I got to go back to real estate, and
Hmm.
that's when I brought back the gift of the giving and wanting to help people, because I got that through nursing. I didn't have it the first time, but I gained it through my experience in nursing, and I love being a nurse
Hmm.
enough to where when I got the chance to go back into real estate, I could help people. And that's what I did was I broke down the simplistic ways and took complex issues like when I was a nurse, a triple coronary bypass procedure is very complex, but I knew how to explain it and break it down and actually translate it into Spanish for somebody who's, very confused and very concerned about their loved one who's having a heart attack right now.
Hmm.
And so being able to do that scientifically for healthcare, I was like, holy crap, that's what I needed. And that was kind of the way when I came back into real estate and development, that's when I decided I was going to treat every person I do business with like they were my patient, like they were
Mhm.
the people I took care of in the hospital.
Well, things happen for you. Every successful person has maybe not gone bankrupt, but has come pretty damn close. Like where because you're taking risks that most people don't take. But also, you said this and it just popped out at me. Before 2009, you were set up to where you were making money, you were doing stuff, but you didn't have the network, you didn't have the connections, you just were on your stuff. You become a nurse and that kind of flip flops, and now all you're doing is helping people, helping people, helping people. And now you brought it back into let's make money, let's do this, but let's do this as a team and a network. How important has this network been to you now that you've had that reframe?
Well, and again, when I got back into construction, one of the first things I ended up with was I had a 5 acre piece of property and a house on it, and I needed to figure out how to break it up and sell it. What I learned was leaving enough meat on the bone for people to come in, was important. A lot of people think that just because we know each other, we talk, like that should be enough to create the bond. But to me, it's not until you trade paper with people,
Hmm.
right? Like I've traded blood with people. I've been in the ER and I've had life and death, real life and death. And so when I'm outside of the ER now and I'm doing deals with people, that's one of the things that keeps me from I call it keeping myself emotionally framed.
Hmm.
Because again, when we're playing with money and playing Monopoly, you can get emotionally charged playing Monopoly, right?
Yep.
So when we're playing Monopoly in real life with real money and real estate, you can get emotionally charged. And
Hmm.
I have to remind myself, nobody's dying, nobody's bleeding to death, and nobody's going to live forever by solving this problem. Let's take a step back.
Hmm.
And why I can do that is because then it maintains the relationships we're building within our networks. I heard somebody yesterday. I don't know if you've ever heard of a personality by the name of Hannah Hammond. She's a self-made millionaire, got a very successful brokerage here in Arizona. Her company's HB Capital. She does a lot of commercial lending. Look her up. I'm dropping gems right there. If you ain't got that, go look her up. But Hannah Hammond left me with a strong piece of information yesterday, and that was that she told me uh, in her presentation it was if it's not a hell yes, then it's a hard no,
Hmm.
right? And so when I meet people, that's why when we met, I was like, yeah, absolutely, let's do a hell yes, let's do a podcast together. And that's kind of how I do all of my relationships now because when I was in the ER and when I was working bedside, everything was that way. You didn't have gray areas with people,
Hmm.
right? Those gray areas led to people getting hurt or misdiagnosed or medical errors.
Yeah.
Like those were big issues. So in real estate now, what I'm able to do is understand who really needs help and help them,
Hmm.
and then find those that don't have any value. I provide them with the value that I can, and I move on.
Hmm.
Right. And so just like in the ER, those that were really sick got a bed upstairs. Those that didn't got a discharge paper and a pat on the back,
Yep. Yep.
you
Yep.
know? So,
But you have to be that way. I think in business, a lot of times, and even in the networking events we went to, you kind of find out who's legit and who's just there trying to pose. Who's really going to be there? Like Sean, our buddy, said, make investments with people because if you do business together and actually have money involved, you're going to either find out they're legit or not. And it's going to also mean that, there's actual some traction there. How do you evaluate different people you're willing to work with? What are your like, because I know some people are going, okay, cool, great for Tommy D. He's got all this stuff. He's already got set up. How do you evaluate when you're first starting out? Because again, like a lot of people I'm listening to are sales professionals transitioning into being entrepreneurs or maybe they're first time entrepreneurs, they haven't really gotten too far along. How do they start looking at deals like this?
so it's funny you ask that, and I don't normally plug stuff, but I hope you don't mind if I do. I wrote a book. I wrote a couple books actually, but the one book that it reminds me of is the book called Triage: Code Blue Your Business. And during COVID, so many companies went out of business because they did not have a crisis plan.
Hmm.
And so with the years I spent in the ER and then the years I spent in business prior to the ER and now after the ER, what I did was I combined the sciences of the emergency room with the arts of business because if you don't know this, I'm dual degreed. I have a business of arts degree, and I have a bachelor of science degree. So I have my bachelor of business. It's a BBA, and then I
Mhm.
have a BSN. And so I actually was able to marry those two together. And in doing that, like example is like when we get a patient that comes in, we use a very simple mnemonic QP2 RST. And QPRST is the way that we're able to see what their quality is. How do they present? What are they representing? What are their symptoms? What are their signs? And then, what is their time in the deal? So
Mhm.
that mnemonic right there, QPRST, helps me quickly figure out, is this person somebody that I'm going to talk to or somebody that I'm going to just, hey, yeah, yeah, and shake hands and
Yep,
go,
yep, yep.
right? And so QPRST is very important. I learned it in nursing, and that stands for quality of pain, persistence of pain, relief from pain. Like, and again, so it's all based on pain. That's a pain assessment tool. And if I don't want to have pain in business, I got to use that pain assessment tool to figure out who the real people are and who aren't,
Mhm.
right? And so again, in the ER, when I'm triaging people, they're walking in the door. I got to start nursing right after Obamacare became a thing, right? And if you want to know something that happened was basically like turning on a faucet in the ER because what ended up happening was people thought everybody's got health care. We can go here now for free.
Mhm.
And literally, our ERs became oversaturated with everybody that wanted to see a doctor.
Yep.
Not needed to see a doctor, wanted to see a doctor,
Yes. Yep.
right? And so as my first 3 years in the business of nursing was actually spent converting hospitals over to this new system based on legislation, right? And so
Mhm.
that was where I decided I was going to pull this information from in nursing and bring it back into construction because it's rare that you leave one industry, go to another, ever to return back to the third,
Mhm.
you know. And so for me to have a third career, I could have went and done something else or got back into real estate. And I decided to go back into real estate.
Mhm. But I think it's something that you did to begin with. You started the roofing company, you got into real estate, you did the stuff. 2008 hit, it wrecked a lot of people. You learned from it, you tried something else. It gave you the other piece you needed to come back now to where you can make a bunch of money, help people, and build a business you want. So I think, again, things happen for you. Now, I'm sure it sucked. Going bankrupt's never fun. Going through all that pain's never fun. Even traveling all that much. I travel a lot as well with business and work and stuff. It's not always that fun, but it's now gotten you to this point. Like right now, and we were talking about this before, how many different businesses do you currently run, Tommy, or own?
17.
17. And that's not
Yeah.
by accident. Like there's a lot of people that maybe do one or two and they're solopreneurs. So it's not really, it's more like they have their own job. How did you get yourself in that position? Because I know we kind of highlighted it and you were like, I had a roofing company, then went in real estate, then I was a nurse and I came back and now I'm helping people. Well, you have 17 companies. You've done a little bit more. So how did you start to acquire companies? That's a big leap.
Well, and it came down to when I got back into real estate, I remembered my rich dad, poor dad model, right? Like I told you in the beginning, my partner in Florida in a roofing company, he owned a home building company, and then he had 14 other companies underneath that, seven in my office,
Hmm.
right? And so um, I learned from my mentor. I was 22 years old when I got to hang out with this guy and become a millionaire. At
Hmm.
27, I was like, I had, more money than I could worry about. And 3 years later, it was all gone.
Hmm.
So those were the lessons that I learned. And then through nursing, I had so many conversations with people, and I learned so many different things in there. And even within nursing, I set myself up with multiple companies as a nurse because I learned that as a nurse, I could practice autonomously.
Hmm.
I did a lot of things here in Arizona. We have IV hydration clinics now, something that didn't exist before I moved to Arizona.
Hmm.
In 2017, I started the very first mobile IV hydration company, and that expanded out to 147 practitioners and over 320 administrators.
Hmm.
So like you got nurses out there that are independently making money by making people better
Yep.
using IV hydration outside of the hospital.
Hmm.
And I have the pleasure and the luxury of saying I started that, right? So one of the things I didn't do was hold and retain rights to it. And I didn't understand that contractually when I did it because again, I landed on money in a stupid way when I was younger, worked my way through nursing and I got the worker bee mentality, but I still set myself up for success on many different levels. And I think it goes back to the fact that I was an entrepreneur when I was 6 or 7 years old. I was
Hmm.
selling stuff. I was doing door-to-door sales at 6 or 7 years old, selling candy bars for school, selling pet rocks to people, like
Hmm.
anything I could, selling my Matchbox cars. Like I could do.
Nice.
I was doing all kinds of stuff. I sold my first piece of land when I was 14.
Hmm.
But right now, what I did was when I started building houses again in 2018 and 2019, and then went full time in 2020, I got my general contractor's license in 2020,
Hmm.
and I had trouble finding contractors because they were either too busy or too lazy. And I
Yeah.
decided that I was going to just do what my rich dad did, and I was just going to start companies for everything I needed.
Hmm.
And so I started a groundworks company, I started a concrete company, I started a block laying company, started a landscape company, started a drywall company, started an electric company, started a plumbing company, started a septic company, and I just kept starting companies. And every time I did, I was just same rules apply, putting the same SOPs in place, and
Hmm.
just again turning the machine on, like putting all the parts into it, turning the machine on. And I treated it just like the patients that were coming in. I was a pediatric burn specialist that had 38 different certifications. I could cover stroke, sepsis, heart attack, embolism, you name it. I was certified in it because my per dollar per hour pay only relied on my certificates, not my degrees,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And so that's when I realized that certificates in nursing were much like LLCs in the real world.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I love that you learned the lesson. Because again, when you were 19 or 22 and you had the one company and the guys like got all these different ones, no, I think that's great. So again, we talked about it a little bit. Is there a certain amount of money you tell people, hey, save up X to start? There's some people that say you should have X before you do anything. So I want your thoughts on this.
So I like the game Monopoly as my example, right? If you're playing the game Monopoly and you're not sitting with $1 or $2 bills in your pocket the whole game, you're not playing it right. So I operate at a somewhere around about $1,000 of cash in my hands, and the rest of it is spent on something.
Hmm.
Like the longer the money sits in my possession, the less time it's out making me money,
Yep.
right? And so that's why I operate more in debt than I do in cash, actual cash, is because I understand how far I can push debt to make me money. Like
Hmm.
I'm in student loan debt. I made enough money to pay it back. But I also signed a contract with the United States government. So I said politics are not allowed.
Hmm.
But because I signed a contract that said if I worked in high need areas like Cook County Hospital in Chicago, or on the border in Mexico or Navajo Nation for the Native American communities. I signed a contract that if I did that for 5 years of my life, they would cover 75% of my student loans. And then Trump came in, even though I voted him in there, he got rid of it.
Hmm.
Right. And so my contract became null and void. But, it is what it is. I started my one construction company and called it BSN because that's the last degree I took a loan on
Hmm.
was the Bachelor of Science in Nursing degree. So I even named
Nice.
my construction company after what I want to pay off someday.
Yeah.
The for people that need to have money to make money, that's a myth, man. That's
Hmm.
100% a myth because I just told you that in capital, you can have contacts, you can have contracts, and you can have credit. And
Hmm.
those three things right there, you don't need the cash or the collateral. For
Right.
collateral, you need to buy something. So yeah, you're spending money to get the collateral. But 3 out of 5 sources of capital come from no money. No,
Hmm.
like cash and money are to me are two different things.
Yeah.
You don't need money to make money. You need cash to make money, but that's only one source of capital,
Hmm.
right?
Well, and
So
I think people have been taught to be worker bees. And they're
yeah,
taught in school to save their money up and do the thing and plug into the system to make other people rich. Which cool, if that's what you want to do, great. But here's my question I'm gonna ask because I have my own thoughts on it. Do you think everyone can be an entrepreneur?
no, no. So we need to go back to so in medical terminology class, they taught us how to read Latin because everything in medical terminology is basically Latin. So if you break everything down and you break down a word into the meanings, you can see that the word entrepreneur starts with the word entree, right? Enter,
Hmm.
right? And so I can tell you right now, I was an ER nurse because I sucked at ICU. ICU is intensive, long-term, side-by-side care for 12 hours. That's not me,
Hmm.
right? I'm an ER nurse. Come in with a stub toe, I'll fix you. Come in with a heart attack, I'll fix you. Like I can just boom, 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 turn and burn, right? I can't sit there and babysit something for a long time because that's what an operator does.
Hmm.
So when I say I have 17 companies, I only operate one, and that's
Hmm.
me, Tommy D LLC. I show up for board meetings, I review notes, I problem solve because that's what an entrepreneur does. My job is literally the word preneur is to put it sounds I tease people, I said it's French for bullshit. Preneur, like, you
Enter
know,
bullshit.
like, right. So enter bullshit. So the root word is entree and the catchword is preneur in that, you know, you got to be a problem solver. The preneur is the problem solver of the word. So
Hmm.
those are the two things entrepreneurs are genius at, then you're an entrepreneur. I just learned there's we had a 3 day event, the last 3 days, a virtual event. And so we had a bunch of people come in for it. And one of our members from our mastermind, we have a mastermind, uh, we do a podcast meeting every day, Monday through Friday. And but we had a virtual event, 4 hours for 3 days doing, you know, just constant teaching and lecturing and all that. One of the members comes in from Florida or from California, and she is currently getting a degree, a bachelor's of art degree in entrepreneurship. And I was like, they're teaching what? You know, like they're giving a degree away and what? Like if college is stooping to the point that they're now saying that like entrepreneurship or blue collar trades, like I learned the other day I can get 6 degrees with my experience in the blue collar trades
Hmm.
because of the licenses that I hold. I can just go apply, test it, you know, test through, and then I'll get literally 6 bachelor's degrees in trades and certification. I can probably even get a doctorate degree
Hmm.
in blue collar, and I would love to be Dr. Blue Collar.
That would be cool. That would be cool.
So you know that's kind of the direction I'm heading over the next 5 years. Get to
Hmm.
that point.
Yeah. No, I love that point because there's so many people that say they're an entrepreneur. They'll put CEO or CO and they don't understand what it means. Like in my sales career, I work with multi-billion dollar companies and multi-million dollar companies. The CEO does one thing, the COO does another thing, the CTO does another thing. And we have all these people doing it. Now, I do think that anyone can own a business because there's a difference. Like if you buy a
Right.
boring business that like say someone else had and you take it over and run it, cool, you can come and be an operator. But
That's an operator.
entrepreneurs, in my mind, go and create something new or they birth a different idea. That's just kind of my thought process. We're not done, but I want people to know where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook. You got to use the fancy spelling right there to find me on Facebook. And then I'm also on Instagram as Blue Collar $1 Million 25 or 26. I don't know. You can probably find this face on there. I got a face for radio. It's very easy to find. And then I'm also on TikTok, and I've actually got more traction on TikTok. So blue collar $1 million there. I got a lot of. I've been doing TikTok probably since like 6 months after it started. I knew that it had power to it because of the ability to record the videos like I was able to do. It was a tool that I used while building a custom home for an investor, and I gained 77,000 followers
Mm,
on TikTok, filming and doing live streams while I was building the house. And so that's kind of where it all came from. But yeah, those are the places you can find me. Or you can go to landsharkmastermind.com /webinar. And we have a webinar every day, Monday through Friday, 9 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock in the morning. And then we also host a live in person from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock at Club Scottsdale networking event. So it's it's a hybrid virtual event from 9 to 10 and then just strictly live event from 10 to 11. So if you're in the Scottsdale Phoenix market, come up to Club Scottsdale, hang out. The first cup of coffee is on me.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's a beautiful facility for sure. As we land the plane, was there anything we didn't talk about that you want to leave our listeners with?
AI. Like, I don't know how your listeners feel about AI, but over the last, I would say, last 3 years, I've converted everything over to AI, and that's really why or how I've gotten to the point of being able to manage and architect an enterprise of 17 companies. And we're in position right now, as it goes by 2030, I'll have over 150 companies under management. We currently operate $154 million of assets under management, $300 million of funds raised for different projects, and are on point to be at $1 billion of AUM by 2030. So
Mm. Are there certain businesses that you're looking at right now that you say, hey, do it in this, stay away from that?
we
That's a
are
really broad term. Full
so
disclosure,
yeah.
we are not going to hold him accountable. You cannot say if you
No, this is
invested this,
not
it's his
financial advice.
fault. Yes.
Here's the best way to handle it. So, like, I went to college late in the game. I started college at 32 years old, right? So here's what I know. All my buddies that raced to college at 20, at 18 and all that were already out of the job they got after they got out of college and they were looking for a new job.
Hmm.
Like when the 2008 recession happened, that didn't just affect the blue collar people building houses, it affected everybody,
Yep.
right? And so those guys that spent money on a college degree, they were now working at McDonald's, and that was humiliating. And a lot of those guys didn't recover mentally, right? Um, for me, I got to start school at 32 years old. I became Van Wilder and really just took on the role of, yeah, I'm the old guy on campus, deal with it,
Hmm.
right? At 32, I wasn't really that old. I look a hell of a lot older now. I'm 51.
Yeah. I hear
Um,
you.
but you know what it was when while I was there, I took notes and I realized this. 25 years ago, they told us all that if you don't get into college, you're not going to be anything. And then here we are, 25 years later, we were in college and now we're not anything. So oops,
Hmm.
oversaturation.
Yep.
And so the same thing is happening right now with multifamily in real estate. Multifamily is oversaturated. We still need it, but as far as investors go, like it's pointless to do it because you're making less than what they pay at the bank.
Yeah.
Right. And so again, the saturation is there, the investor saturation is there. So there needs to be a really an overhaul of multifamily in a way. And so when it comes to investing, businesses are becoming the next hot thing to invest in.
Hmm.
And so I'm not giving investment advice, but I'm letting you know that being able to take AI and incorporate it into a blue collar business is life changing.
Hmm.
And so one of my companies that I currently operate is a septic tank company, and we 100% arbitrage it. We do not make it, touch it, feel it, nothing. All we do is sell it and book it.
Hmm.
That's it.
The
And
connectors.
so, and I've
Yeah.
automated that process now so that I'm not even touching it at all, but I
Hmm.
sell the product and provide the service.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Well, but if
So,
you think about it, that's how most real money is made. Zoom, Facebook, Amazon, all of it. Amazon doesn't sell you the products. They make money off the products that they flow through their thing. Facebook makes money off the ads. Like it, one plus one is two. We just keep trying to look and make it three for some reason. In reality, one plus one is two. No, I love that. Tommy,
yeah.
I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. And people, you know who needs to hear this message? Send it out to them and share it because you may change their life. And until next time, go and achieve your dreams. Don't just chase them, because if you're chasing it, you're never going to get a taste of what it could really be. Achieve it, do it, and be the person you want to be.